So this is Advanced Algebra 2. What? The 2-day Chapter 4 test has questions 1 through 8 on day 1. That's 55 points. You will be allowed to use a calculator, but no notes. The test, this is the pencil paper test that you'll be taking on tomorrow and the next day. So here we go. We better look at this. There will not be any kind of curve, so don't expect one. So here we go. Question number 1 will be just like this. It will say graph this, and it will say label the vertex, label the y-intercept, and 2 additional points. For sake of time, if there's questions, maybe I'll address them, but here we go. The observation I make of this is that my b value is 0, which helps me with the vertex. What I've got here is negative 3x squared plus 5. So my vertex I can spot pretty quickly is at 0, 5. So that's where I start when I graph these things. And here's the thing, if you understand these concepts, whether you're a math overlord or a math whiz or not, if you understand these concepts, you can do this stuff by hand using your brain so much faster than using a calculator. Why is the vertex at 0, 5? H is negative b over 2 times a, right? My b value in this is 0. What's the opposite of 0? Still 0. So h is 0 and k is 5. The c value is the y-intercept, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But the b value is 0, so our vertex is at 0, 5. Okay, so there's my vertex. I need to label this. So here it is, vertex 0, 5. If you don't label it like that, you won't get the full credit. So the directions are pretty clear. Label the vertex. Well, there we go. That's my vertex. The vertex is the y-intercept too. The y-intercept is the same as the vertex, and it's also 0, 5. Huh. That's kind of odd and interesting and peculiar, but that happens whenever b is 0. Whenever b is 0, that happens. Since a is negative 1, I'm going to, or since a is negative 1. Since a is negative 3, I'm going to go over 1 and down 3 and drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. So I get the point P at 1, 2. And by symmetry, the point Q at negative 1, 2. And that's good enough. For sake of time, I think we better move on. We got that one out the way. We doing all right? Okay. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2 goes like this. Number 2 says if the problem from the last one had changed to this, to y equals negative 8x squared minus 5. So let's look at this and see if we can zoom in on that a little bit better. Okay. So if the problem from number 1 had changed to this, what would stay the same and what would change? How does the graph open? Well, in the first one, the graph is it's reflected, so the graph is opening. The graph is opening downward, okay, and it's going to be still opening down, right? Still opens down. All the width. This new one's going to be narrower, okay? So it's going to be narrower. This one's narrower. The location of the vertex. The vertex doesn't change? I think it does. It's now going to be 0, negative 5. Same thing with the y-intercept too, right? The y-intercept will now be 0, negative 5. What about the equation for the axis of symmetry? It will remain the same. The equation for the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 0. It stays the same. What about the x-intercepts? This first function had an x-intercept here and here, right? The second one, if you picture it, yeah, it won't have any. It's going to be down here. None. The other one had some of them, but this one won't have any. Okay. So that's going to be an essay question at 6 points. I will ask you to discuss those 6 things. How does the graph open? Uh, what's it? You can set it up however you want. If you want to do bullet points, if you want to set it up in paragraph form, however. In the question, it'll tell you to describe all those things. Yeah, those will all be listed in the question. Oh, you're welcome. Okay. Ready? Yes. The axis of symmetry is a vertical line that goes through the vertex. Okay. So a needle pulling thread, la, a note to follow. So this next question, parts of it will go really fast, and other parts will take a lot longer. The coordinates of the vertex should be an automatic. Oh, I got this. It takes me 8 seconds because I know vertex form. This is -6 times the group x plus 3, the group squared, and then minus 10. I know vertex form, the x coordinates counterintuitive, so I know the coordinates of the vertex here are something, something. -3, -10. That should be a gimme. You should be able to do that without thinking. Well, you might have to think, but the x coordinate's always the opposite of what you think. It's always counterintuitive. Yep. The graph. How does the graph open? Well, my a value tells me that. My a value is -6. So the graph opens down since a is less than 0. The relative width, is it wide, narrow, or somewhere in between? This particular one is narrow. Narrow is going to be when the absolute value of a is bigger than, let's say, 1. Neutral is when the absolute value of a is approximately 1. And wide is going to be when the absolute value of a is between 0 and 1, right? Doing all right? Okay. The real coordinates of the y-intercept. Ooh, ooh, no. That's just not right. That's going to take a little bit of time and effort. You could graph it, or you could take 3 squared times -6 and then subtract 10. So that's going to be -64. So it's 0, -64. Foil, x squared, x plus 3 quantity squared is x squared plus 6x plus 9. The 9 is going to get multiplied by the -6, which is going to give me -54, and -54 minus the 10. Basically, you have to put the thing in standard form. Y equals -6 times x plus 3 times x plus 3 minus 10. -6 times x squared plus 6x plus 9. -6x squared minus 36x. There's a minus 10 on the end. Minus 54 minus 10. Okay. All right. The real coordinates of the x-intercept. For 2 points, this is a very difficult question. Not impossible, but it's a difficult, cumbersome question. It requires you to solve the equation replacing y with 0 and getting x all by its lonesome. Say that again. So 0 equals -6 times the quantity x plus 3, the quantity squared, minus 10. So what I'm after here then is to, yeah, that's -54 minus 10, yeah. So here we go. 10 is -6 times the group of x plus 3 quantity squared. You know what's going to happen? This one's actually not going to have real roots. The one on the quiz will. Because I'm going to have to take a square root of a negative here. Should I change it here? Or do we get the idea? Well, here it's not going to have any real x-intercepts, though. Okay. So let's suppose that minus 10 instead is a plus 10. What's that going to change? It's going to change my vertex, right? Sorry about that. problem. That's what happens when you try to put a review together in 8 seconds. Um, so then that would make that plus 10. That would make that plus 10. That would make that plus 10. So that would make that negative 54 plus 10. That'd make that negative. That'd be a negative 44 then, right? And then that would make this a negative, and that would make this a plus. Okay. So that's going to be working. That's going to work out a little better. So that's going to give me 5/3 is x plus 3, the quantity squared. Right? So I take a square root. So I get x plus 3 is plus or minus the square root of 5/3. So I get x is negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 5/3. So all this work for 2 points? I think I might just skip this question. So this is negative 3 plus or minus rad 15 over 3. So it's going to say, what are the coordinates of the real x-intercepts? So the coordinates would be negative 3 minus rad 15 over 3, comma 0, and negative 3 plus rad 15 over 3, comma 0. The one on the test works out a little bit nicer than that, but yeah, that's a pretty miserable question. Where'd I get 15 at? Do you remember when we had to rationalize denominators? Rad 5 over rad 3 would have to multiply by rad 3 over rad 3, which would give me rad 15 over 3. Thank you. Rationalizing denominators. I don't know if you're going to have to do one quite that bad on the test, but once you get the okay. All right. Well, that one wasn't so fun. Parts of it. Again, here's the thing. Pick and choose your battles. You know, some of the stuff you're going to be able to answer quickly, and you'll exactly know it. Others you're not going to know. I have a big disagreement with many people on tests. There are several colleagues of mine right now being trained on test taking. When I took a college test one time, the first question, I didn't know how to do it, and I looked at it for 45 minutes and cried and got a 0 on the test because I just walked out and didn't do anything. Had I looked at the rest of the test, the rest of it, I knew exactly how to do every single other problem. What I learned from that and what I expect of you, and I'm not going to lower my standard or change things. If you're taking a test and you don't know how to do something you know how to do. Does that make sense? Move on. Don't sit there and cry over it. It's okay to cry. I'm not going to say don't cry. Hopefully I don't make you cry with this test. This test has been known to make grown men cry. But anyway, the point is, do something that you know how to do, right? Okay. Here we go. Y equals 1/2 times the quantity x plus 2 times the quantity x minus 4. You should be able to list the x coordinates or the x-intercepts right now if you have been studying and preparing and you know what's going on. Something 0 and something 0. What do we got? Negative 2, 0, and 4, 0. And if you don't get that, you better look back over 4.4 notes. That's counterintuitive. You got it. The rest of this question, I'm not going to lie, it takes some time. The vertex, h is p plus q over 2. Well, my p is negative 2. My q is the 4. So that's 2 over 2, so that's 1. So the coordinates of the vertex are 1 something. So making substitutions, my k is 1/2 times 1 plus 3 times 1 minus 4. These two numbers in the quantity, they should be opposites each time. I meant to make that 1 plus 2. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. This is 1/2 times 3 times negative 3. So the y coordinate then of the vertex is minus 9/2. I see a lot of people write negative 4.5 and stuff like that. Decimals don't exist. They never exist in varsity math ever again, unless we're talking about money. Good. So once you get the coordinates of the vertex, vertex form's not so bad. Vertex form's actually quite simple. Vertex form now would be y equals 1/2 times the group x minus 1, the quantity squared, and then minus 9/2. And then minus 9/2. Okay. Wow. This is still number 4. We're not even halfway done with the day 1 of the test. Huh? This test will make grown men and okay. Standard form requires you to FOIL. We're going to have 1/2 x squared. And then we're going to have minus x. And then we're going to have minus 4. So that's standard form for the function. How did I get that? I FOILed. How did you FOIL? I FOILed in my head. And I distributed the half at the end. Once you get that, then the coordinates of the y-intercept are pretty easy. The coordinates of the y-intercept would be 0 and negative 4. Okay. What do we think about that one? So chapter 1, section 1 was standard form. 1.2 was vertex form. Chapter 4. Section 1 was standard form. 4.2 was vertex form. I forget what 4.3 was. I really do. I think it was writing functions, writing equations, given some points and stuff. So anyway, 4.4 is where we talked about factoring and stuff like that. So the coordinates of the y-intercepts, once I get standard form, it's just a constant for the y-intercept. The x-intercepts are counterintuitive from this because the function is given to us in factored form, otherwise known as in intercept form. So, okay. We ready to look at the next? So we're 1/4 of the way through the test. Solve 5. Oh, finally something I know how to do. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I know how to do this. Ha! X squared minus 11x minus 60 equals 0. I wonder if 60 has factors that add up to be negative 11. Well, it says factor it, so it better. There we go. I will be looking for this step. If I don't see this step and I just see the answers, you won't get full credit on this. I know many of you are going to rely solely on your calculators and try to figure out ways to circumvent knowing these concepts. If I don't see that step, you will not get full credit for this. If you just have the answers down there, you're going to get 1/5 of the points for this. I will be looking for that step right there. Okay. So it says using solution set notation. Solution set notation. I'm not going to be super picky about this. So if you don't put something in the right notation, even though it will demonstrate on the test how to, solution set means you're going to use braces like that. Okay. So in those braces, put your answers separated by a comma. So the answers are negative 4 and 15. Okay. By the zero product property, if A times B equals 0, then A equals 0. Or B equals 0. Okay. Wow, 5/16 of the way done. Ready? There's 16 questions. We just finished the 5th one. Here we go. Number 6. Find the x-intercepts by factoring. Y equals 8x squared plus 18x minus 5. So this will factor if 8 times 5, which is 40, has factors that add up to 18, and it does, 2 and 20. So this is y equals 8x squared minus 2x plus 20x minus 5. Boy, I should have been studying weeks ago while we had all those snow days instead of playing Angry Flappy Birds or whatever it is. I don't play games. Do-do-do-do. 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 So this factors into the group of 2x plus 5 and 4x minus 1. So it wants the x-intercepts using coordinate notation. So my x-intercepts are negative 5/2, 0, and 1/4, 0. Ah, I messed. No, nothing's messed up. That's good. That's it. That's it. That's right. Ah, wow, dude, we did all this in chapter 4. Really? So going to Wolfram Alpha and just getting the answers to get 100 on homework wasn't good enough. No, and it's not going to be good enough. The rest of the year we're going to be 50-50 pencil paper and math Excel. So ready? Moving on to number 7. Solve by taking square roots using use solution set notation. This one actually is pretty easy. 400x squared is 49. So it says solve by taking square roots. Well, to solve, we want to get x by itself, so we divide by 400. We divide by 400. So that cancels that. So x squared is 49 over 400. So we take the square root. And the quotient property says we can split up a quotient of square roots by making it square root over the square root. So this is going to be 7 over 20. And when you take square roots and you're solving quadratic equations by the fundamental theorem of, there we go, plus or minus. So using solution set notation, our answer should be written like this. Negative 7/20, comma, 7/20. There we go. Again, if you don't have your answer, if we haven't used solution set notation, so I'm not going to be super picky about that. Okay, if the answer's there, I'm not going to be. In years past, I really would pick that apart, but we haven't used that much this year, so. And it's Obama's fault. No, it's not Obama's fault. I'm just kidding. They're already tapping my phone anyway, so I better watch what I say. Here we go. Number 8, we've got negative 2 plus 4i over 1 minus 6i. Now, Mr. Minnick, you flip-flop too much. Well, yeah, I do flip-flop quite a bit. This question, I'll be perfectly frank with you. I had a friend named Frank. He laughed real funny. He laughed like, hey, hey, hey. That's how he laughed. He's a music teacher at Lordstown. Anyways, on this one, I would use my calculator to get the answer. It's going to take you 10 minutes to do this one without the calculator. So in standard form, negative 2 plus 4i over 1 minus 6i. Just make sure you use the right eye, not the left eye, not the wrong eye, but the proper, correct eye. My calculator is going to take 10 minutes to load. Maybe I could have done this one faster. I know my denominator is going to be 37, right? A squared plus b squared. Remember that? Multiply by 1 plus 6i over 1 minus 6i. This is going to take forever to load. But the way I'd have to do this is multiply by 1 plus 6i over 1 minus 6i. My real part would be negative 2 minus 24, so that's going to be negative 26, negative 26 37ths. And then plus, minus 12, plus, that's minus 8 37ths, Bob Saget, minus 8 37ths I. You'll see in a minute. Where'd the I go? So one of these days, this TI calculator is going to load. One of these days. Any day now. What happens in the numerator up here is I FOIL, and I get negative 2 plus 4i minus 12i plus 24i squared. Everybody with me there? You'll see. So watch this. FOIL. So what we end up with then, now the calculator decides it wants to load. These two combine to give me this negative 8 37's I, right? Remember what I squared is. I squared is negative 1, so this is plus 24 times negative 1, right? So that's going to be minus 24. And when I put these two together, that's where that negative 26 comes from. So anyway, the 37. The 37 came from the fact that a complex number multiplied by its conjugate is a squared plus b squared. 1 squared plus 6 squared. How do I get it to turn into a fraction? I press math enter on a calculator. So this is supposed to be a plus there. Another question. Where did I get the what? The negative 8? I combined my 4i and my minus 12i. So, like I said, on this one, I think, for sake of time, for the first part of it anyhow, that it would make sense to go like this. Negative 2 plus 4, I get the right I. I said I get the right I. I said I get the right I. Escape. There's the right I. What was the denominator of this? 1 minus 6i or 1 plus? Thank you. 1 minus 6i. There we go. People think I just make this stuff up. Some people think I make it up. Don't I want to work on the paper? That's a good question. Don't I want to work on the paper? I don't know what the directions say. But yeah, that would be good. The absolute value for this, do you really want to see that part? I'll take a look at it after class. Here we go. The absolute value. The absolute value of a plus bi is the square root of a squared plus b squared, right? so this is the square root of negative 26/37 squared plus negative 8/37 squared. So that's the square root. Oh no, that's going to get messy. I'm going to leave it at that. If you have it that good, I'll give you full credit because that's good enough. Because it's going to take like an hour to simplify that. And we don't have an hour. We have about, I don't know, depends on when they dismiss. So if you get it that far, I'll take it. So that's the first day. Day 2. Solve by completing the square. 4x squared plus 40x equals negative 16. 4, 40, and 16. Oh, it's magic, you know? I divided everything by the greatest common factor of 4. The 4 becomes irrelevant to solving this, but I do need to divide that out to complete the square. I add the square of half the coefficient of the linear term to both sides. So I get negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 21. I said plus or minus the square root of 21. Let me fill in some more of the blanks there. So this is x plus 5, the quantity squared, equals 21. and then I take the square root, and then I take the square root, so I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 21. And that's how I get what I get. When we complete the square, on the left, we get a trinomial x squared plus 10x plus 25. Perfect square trinomials factor into binomial squareds. That was 4.7, completing the square. Good night. When you're solving, you add and you add, because you're on opposite sides of the equation. For the other one, you're on the same side of the equation, so you add and subtract. So, speaking of the other one, ooh, why couldn't this one have been the easier of the two? Y equals 3/8 x squared plus 12x minus 3. I just love fractions. I have to divide out that fraction and multiply it back in later. Y is 3/8 times the group. I divide by 3/8. I divide by 3/8. So 12 divided by 3/8 is like 12 times 8/3. And that cross cancels. And that's going to give me a 32. So that's going to be x squared plus 32x. That's going to make it nice, actually, kind of. And then divide by 3/8. So that's going to be negative 3 times 8. Oh, this is real nice, actually. This one's not very bad at all. Those 3's cross cancel. So that's minus 8. Wow. This one's actually working out pretty nice. It looks intimidating, but it's not so bad. So I complete the square by adding the square of half the coefficient of the linear term to both sides. To undo adding that quantity, I need to subtract that quantity. So I need to subtract that much. So I get y equals 3/8 times the group of x plus 16, the quantity squared. And then somewhere off to the side, I'm going to have 264, negative 264 times 3/8. And I need to cancel that, reduce that down a little bit. I think 8 goes into 264. That's a 3, 24, 2, yeah, it's a 33. So that's going to be some 33 somethings. So that's going to be 99, so that's minus 99/8. Minus 99/8. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. It's just minus 99? Oh, because the 8's cancel. Thank you. Good looking out. So it's just minus 99 because the 8's cancel. Because this becomes a 1 and this becomes a 33. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. So number 11. Solve using the quadratic formula. Negative 2x squared plus 7x minus 11 is 0. X is negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 11. All over 2 times negative 2. So that's 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 88 over, that's still negative 7. What happened to my negative? Over negative 4. So I get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative something. I guess that's negative 39 over negative 4. That was a 49. 7 squared. So then we get negative 7 plus or minus I rad 39 over negative 4. If you left it there, I'd take that. That'd be good. It's 49. That's 49 minus 88. 49 minus 88. Do, 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 do. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Do, 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 do. We have another 5 problems left to look at. Ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2. Here we go. Find the discriminant. Y is x squared minus 3x plus 1. That's b squared minus 4ac. So that's negative 3, the quantity squared, minus 4 times 1 times 1. So that's 9 minus 4, which is 5, which is greater than 0. So there are 2 real, in this case, zeros is what I'm talking about. Zeros of the function. Lots of formulas. There's a discriminant, standard form of a quadratic function, vertex form of a quadratic function, intercept form of a quadratic function, h equals minus b over 2a, k equals 4ac minus b squared all over 4a. Completing the square, the quadratic formula. Here we go. This says 5 is greater than 0. It's positive. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Solve this quadratic inequality anyway, yump 2, using any method, yump 2. So we've got this x squared plus 5x minus 9 is less than 0. It's an inequality. Remember, either my answers are going to be between or beyond my 2 critical values. So I've got to, it won't say yump 2 on the test. I was just making a crack at Jeff Foxworthy. I love when he says yump 2. You can use any method you like. You can use whatever you like. So here we go. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 4 times 1 times minus 9 all over 2 times 1. So that's negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 36 over 2. So that's negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 61 all over 2. So those are my critical values. Those are my critical values. If I graph this function, it's going to have a y-intercept clear down here. The x-coordinate of the vertex is going to be somewhere over. So the graph's going to look something like this. Okay. So if I made this a y here, I have y is greater than, and I'd shade between. So my answers are that x is greater than negative 5 minus rad 61 over 2, and x is less than negative 5 plus rad 61 over 2. You don't have to graph. You could test some points that are between those. Solve it any way you want to. So my answers are between there. Either the answers are between or beyond. The between, if it's between, you don't have to. If you whatever notation you use, I'll figure it out. If it's beyond, you would use an or. Yeah. The vertex, I just quickly noticed that the vertex would be negative something because it's negative b over 2a. So it'd be negative 5 over 2 times 1. So it'd be like negative 2.5 something. I just did a quick sketch of the graph. No, I just graphed it like that to figure out that my solution set's going to be between my critical values. That probably just went like this, but hey, you got it? Okay, okay, good, awesome. Okay, yeah, you don't actually have to graph it. Right here are the critical values. Those are if it was an equation, those would be the solutions. So I just need to know is the answer between there or beyond there, and that's why I sketched the graph, just to figure that out quickly. Okay, here we go. We got 2 or 3 more. Write the function in vertex form given the vertex and a point. Y equals the group of x plus 2, the quantity squared plus 5. I've got to find my a value. To find it, it'd be nice if my point was like -3 something or -1 something, but it's not. Ugh. So I'm going to do this. X, Y, H, K, 1 minus 5 over the group of 7 plus 2 squared, so that's -4 over 81. So you're probably thinking to yourself, self, where did that come from? Y equals a times x minus h, the quantity squared, plus k. Y minus k is a times x minus h, the quantity squared. So I can use this formula, a is y minus k over x minus h, the quantity squared. So I just made some substitutions. So there's some doubters out there thinking that I'm making mistakes as I do this and just trying to show off and pretend as though I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. But let's see. So y equals -4/81 times a group of x plus 2 squared plus 5. So then the last two of these, there's a standard form one. The cool thing is there's more than one way to do this. You don't absolutely need to use a calculator. You could say that y equals a, and you could find a another way, times x plus 3 times x plus 6. And you could actually make some substitutions to find a, or you could go list 1, -3, -6, -4, list 2, 0, 0, and 7, and you do a quad reg on this one. Okay. If you got it this far, you'd have to do some foiling. So that there's that one. The last question on the test is graphing a system of inequalities. And you'll have your graphing calculators. I will have the class set of calculators. Just be mindful of the inequality symbols with the shading and the lines being dotted or solid. Okay. That's the test. It's a very fair assessment of what you know from chapter 4. I will have most of the formulas written somewhere in the room for you to see. I won't label which is which, but I will have the formulas written somewhere for you to see. You're not allowed to use any kind of notes on the test. If you do, you're not going to finish in time anyway. So this is it. It's been real. It's been fun. Good luck on the test. See ya.